you were held at gunpoint and told that you had to impress the person with your dance moves, what kind of dance moves would you bust out?
Lawnmower.
Lawnmower?
No, yeah, absolutely. I can do a mean lawnmower.
Can you really?
Absolutely, yeah.
With or without beer?
Both. Yeah. It takes skill, but yeah, if you hold the beer in the left hand, you can bend down and pull. Yeah, it's been done.
Well, I'd like to think, I'd be dead immediately because I can't dance.
Yeah.
I think really all I have is like the dice move from,
Yeah.
I can't remember the Seth Rogen movie where he's doing it on the dance floor and they're like, he's doing the dice move too much.
Yeah, that and the other one that I like to do is the sprinkler. Yeah, that's another classic, yeah.
Maybe we'll get some video of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and with that, hello and welcome to episode 18 of Stories from a Bar. I'm your host, Chris Osborne, and for this episode, I actually traveled north a little bit to hang out with Kurt, and I already forgot how to pronounce your last name.
It's Borchardt.
Borchardt.
German.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
One of the owners here at Artisanal Brew Works in Saratoga Springs. How are you doing, Kurt?
Yeah, I'm living the dream, my man. Living the dream.
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm living the dream myself. It's, first off, thanks a lot for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming up. I really appreciate it. I've been looking at your stuff on Instagram, and I thought, hey, come on up and visit. So here you are.
And here I am. Before we get into anything, we got a bunch of samples lined up, but right now I'm drinking a Centrist IPA.
Yep.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about this beer just to get started?
Yeah, so the Centrist beer, to be honest with you, was it didn't have the intended outcome. We were after a little bit more of a juicy flavor on it, and it has the haze, it has the mouthfeel, but it has the West Coast flavors. Mm-hmm. So
it is delightful.
Yeah. And I didn't want to throw out a beer because it didn't meet what I wanted. It tasted like a West Coast style, but had the East Coast look. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, let's just call it, I was going to call it the Middle Coast. And then my marketing guy is like, no, we should call it Centrist. And I'm like, all right, that works. And that's that. So that was really the first beer that we've made in a while, or IPA, I should say, that we've made in a while that appealed to the folks that like it more bitter, which is not my style. But there's nothing wrong with it. I just hadn't made them because the juicy IPAs fly, and so I said we'll put it in a bright tank and we'll just serve it. It's gonna be fine because it's got a ton of the alpha acids are real high in it, so it's super bitter and it's gonna age great. And it's done great for us. It fills a niche that we really didn't cover before, which is more of a West Coast style. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna make another one. That one's getting close to running out, and this time we'll make it that way on purpose, not as an accident. Yeah.
It's a happy accident. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, happy little accidents is Bob Ross. Remember the painter with the crazy hair?
Of course.
Yeah.
Bobby boy.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. It's actually been a little while since I've recorded an episode, partially out of laziness, partially vacation, and of course, some things always fall through.
Well, it is summer too.
Yeah,
exactly. You gotta relax at some point.
So I've been wanting to check out the brewery for a while. This place is pretty cool. We're sitting off in a side room right now, overlooking the brewing equipment. I actually don't get up to the Saratoga area that much, despite really only being a half hour just south.
Yeah.
Not even for the track.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys get a lot of traffic once track season rolls around.
We sort of.
People rolling through.
I don't think we get as much traffic from the track as people would think. A lot of people that come for the track are just going downtown. They're parking and they're walking. And we're not walking distance. You got to drive over to our place.
You are almost across the street from SPAC, though, the concert venue.
And some SPAC concerts will draw tons of people. Like Hootie was here last weekend, and that did well for us. Tonight, I'm not sure because it's more of a hard rock.
I heard on the way up, I believe it's Korn and Alice in Chains.
Yeah, and I have no idea what to expect from that crowd. But if you get like Kids Bop, it's not going to draw a crowd.
No.
And some of those, teeny bopper type music, which I don't even know what they would be, but
I'm sure the parents would rather be here. But.
Yeah. So what happens on those days is it's actually quiet here because the traffic's crazy and everyone's avoiding my area like the plague because they know it's going to be jammed up. So at the end of the day, probably SPAC ends up being a wash for me. Because there's the days where it detracts from my business, and there's days where it definitely enhances it. But you know, it is what it is.
I have to admit, I prepared for this by drinking 3 artisanal beers last night.
Beautiful.
White in the glasses wit.
Yep.
Which was very enjoyable.
Yep.
That was a good one. And now that I'm here, I also get another stamp on my Capital Craft Beverage passport.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm up to 7.
Yeah.
Out of 44.
And we have the shot glasses here. If you were to finish them all, you come back up, and then we'll give you your shot glass.
Do you know what's the time limit on trying to fill it out? Is it just the end of the year?
I have no idea.
Because I got a lot of ground to make up, and it's August.
Yeah, that's all right. There's plenty of time.
I got a lot of drinking to do. Well, all right, so I'm drinking the Centrist IPA. We got a bunch of stuff lined up, but before we get to this, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? Are you from the area and everything?
So I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I was, as a student, a little misguided. I played ice hockey, and I enjoyed my time with my friends, and we would drink beverages. And I went to community college, and I really learned how to study, and I did exceptionally well. And because I found out that I actually was smart. My mom said that I was smart because these tests that you take for your abilities would say I was off the charts. But
oh, really?
But I was not performing off the charts at all.
You were just bored.
Yeah. So I ended up doing quite well in college. Enjoyed it, and I've always been somebody that really likes challenge. So I ended up starting out going for botany, and ended up in chemical engineering.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I did for about 13 years. And then, so I first worked at International Paper up in Corinth, and they closed. And then I went to a place down in Waterford called GE Silicones at the time.
Okay.
Now it's called Amenov.
Okay.
And so there I was in charge of packing machinery that would put silicone into tubes and caulkers, and also some bulk packaging. So I've got kind of a diverse set of skills.
Sounds like it.
So I've worked in this paper mill. I was in charge of 40 people on a line that was about the length of 2 football fields, ran 24/7. Of course, we'd have breaks and stuff, but mechanical breaks and planned outages. But I really had a lot of mechanical project managing, chemical engineering experiences, and also just running processes. And because I was such a screwball in high school, I'd always kind of thought, I'd like to at some point go to school or become a teacher. And towards the end of my career as an engineer, I got married, and I had an opportunity to change careers and go back to school. I just had to go get my master's degree. And the worry was not having health insurance, but I could go under my wife's health insurance. So that allowed me to change careers. So I became a school teacher at Saratoga Springs High School for about 13 years.
Oh, wow. What were you teaching?
And I was teaching, it's called Project Lead the Way. It's pre-engineering for high school kids.
Okay.
And, my hope was, could I take a kid that was like me when I was in high school, where I didn't really see why I was taking these courses and where things fit, and I could put the dots together for them, so at least they could understand why you'd want to do well in school.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 13 years. About 3 years into teaching, I missed playing with equipment, pumps and tanks, and all the chemistry stuff. My wife got me a homebrew kit and said, "Hey, why don't you try this?" And the rest is history.
And she just sent you on your path.
Yeah.
That's funny. I work with, I'm a technical editor and writer, but I work with a lot of engineers.
Yep.
They can be an odd group.
Oh, we have our quirks. I'm not going to deny that. Yeah.
So how long have you been brewing beer then?
So it was probably 13 years, 14 years.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, as far as like professional brewer, since I opened the brewery. But for me, doing the scale up and I have a pretty rigged up homebrew system. It's tricked out. Being an engineer, I'm not going to just have
go
some
all out, balls
jalopy.
to the wall.
Yeah, it's got all the controls, bells and whistles. And, and my thought was, it was a progression. I wasn't like I started out doing home brewing and then I'm going to open up a brewery.
Mm-hmm.
I was a competitive rower since I got out of college.
Really?
And that consumed the bulk of my time. In the winters, I would brew more. And what happened is I ended up with, I guess it's a genetic disorder. It's called lupus.
Oh, really?
It's an inflammatory disease. Yeah. And it flared up, and what it caused, my tendons, back of my knees, my hands, and my feet would tighten up. So I would do like 400-pound deadlifts, and my muscles wouldn't get tired. My hands would just cramp up, and I couldn't move my hands. So it kind of sucked.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it was a good couple years going to doctors and physical therapy to figure out A, what was wrong, and then B, how to cure it. And then, when you're been a competitive athlete for 25 years and all of a sudden
you're not,
you can't,
yeah.
You have a lot of time to think as you're sitting there with your hands in ice baths and, dealing with all this medical baloney. And, I'd been really reflecting on, I really liked brewing, and I thought, well, hey, here's an opportunity now I have time to do something with, I have all this time in the morning because rowers wake up real early to train.
Yep.
And my family did not. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So I always had this passion for brewing, and so I started going in a little more hardcore, which led into buying a really hardcore homebrew setup, and then putting my own. I did a lot with process control, so I put my own twist on things to make it even better than what I bought.
Nice.
And then I made this beer. It's a Belgian quad, which right now we don't have on draft, but we'll be making that soon. It's called A Whole Lot of Trouble. I made that at home, and I just really, really liked it a lot. And I really like the dark beers, so I was making...
Did that one win an award?
It did. It won Best in New York State at Tap New York in 2018.
Nice.
And we didn't enter it in 2019 because I didn't have it on tap. I was just out. We had gotten into the crazy beers, the IPAs and sours and smoothie beers. So, our tanks were just tied up on beers that move fast.
Yeah.
And that beer, what I call A Whole Lot of Trouble, I saw an opportunity for a beer that's really not made a lot. It's not a fast moving segment, but it's such a delicious beer. I thought, I'd really like to do that, but you can't have just one beer in your portfolio. So I developed a brown ale, which we do have on. That's called the BB Brown. And then I partnered up with another teacher when I was at the high school, Colin Quinn.
Not the comedian.
Yeah, not the comedian. No, but he is a funny guy.
And the other owner of Artisanal.
Yes, other owner of Artisanal, and he had a strong Belgian passion as well. So, we started out making Belgian beers.
Okay.
Predominantly, we had a pale ale and the brown ale, and that was how we started.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious how, obviously, when you chose to go like the chemistry route back in school and things like that, not knowing that one day you'd be brewing beer for a living, how helpful did that turn out to actually be?
Immensely helpful. Yeah. I mean, I right now am reading a lot of technical papers on I'm in the weeds on hop chemistry and terpenes and how there's biotransformation and the conditions that help biotransformations. And what, and in layman's terms, it would be how do you dry hop to get juicy flavors, versus bitter flavors. And getting to the point where I can do things to take a hop that wouldn't be known to be juicy, and I can make it juicy. So
interesting.
I read some crazy stuff. That really, my wife looks at it and she's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "This is awesome." And being just an engineer overall, it's not it's not about being smart. Like I hate when people say, "Oh, you're an engineer, you're smart." No, it's not that. I think about things in a, and this is probably more any engineer. You think about things in a logical way, and you try and minimize bias and influences, and it's like, okay, I want to make the best IPA possible, and now how do I do that? And collect data, look at data, talk to people. I include my staff in every decision I make for the most part. But, just because I have this degree means jack. What's really important is the liquid. Do you make good liquid?
Yeah.
That really, at the end of the day, is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no one cares about your pedigree if you make shitty beer.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, then let's talk about artisanal here, and why don't we
Sure.
start off with one of these samples we got in front of us that you were kind enough to pour.
We'll start out first with Daily Double. So
The Daily Double.
And I'll give you a little background on it. So, we started out as a Belgian-focused brewery with some other beers, and we were a New York State farm brewery. So what that means is we were buying bulk of our ingredients, and actually we were close to probably 95% all New York State ingredients.
Awesome.
And I thought, it is expensive though. The grain prices are not quite double, but about double what you could get just commercial grain that's grown that I could get from that most breweries use.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard to pass that cost along to the consumer if you're going commercial. So we started out initially just doing the tap room, and we started making an IPA, which turned out being called Derailleur, and that had a little bit of hops in there, which were West Coast, because you had to be, at that point, I think it was 20% or 40% had to be New York State.
Okay.
So we would just have to manage, what that means in terms of grains and hops. The water was always from New York State, and that's my dumb joke of the day. So, so I made this Derailleur, which is kind of an old school IPA. It's West Coast with some East Coast influences. It's got some juicy, but it does have some hop bite to it.
I love these glasses, by the way.
Yeah, these are the Tiku glasses I'm drinking from. So one of our downfalls was, as starting out as a brewery, was a lot of people in that first year, they're making an impression of you,
mm-hmm.
and the impression they have is like, well, they make these okay beers, but they weren't the fire beers that people really wanted. Which I knowing what I knew at the time, I thought, hey, I'm going to make all New York State products, and people are going to like that and value it. But in the end of the day, people could give a shit. They want tasty product. And so we switched our license to a dual license, which means some of my batches have to be New York State, and then my others I can use whatever ingredients they want.
I didn't know so there's a different type of license to do that?
Yeah, so that'd be like the microbrewery license.
Okay.
So I have both. And you can get a dual license. So we did that about a year and change ago. A year and a half. And essentially it was, I'm gonna throw the gloves off here, and I can make these crazy beers that, these juicy IPAs. I was doing what I could with what I had.
Mm-hmm.
It put us a little bit in a hole as far as people's impressions of Artisanal Brew Works. And so, I've kind of made it a point to not go and say, hey, I don't make that anymore. I'm just showing people, like, make a beer that's called Toast McGo's Acai Bowl. Let them figure out, like, what? So we really diversified our portfolio, and the Daily Double, which we're now about to have here, and this is where my story was going. This is obviously a double IPA. It's we initially started out making it hazy, juicy, and we had started out using some New York State hops, which we've transitioned out of. But where that ties into the story is we had found that a little bit of apricot puree
mm-hmm.
enhanced the flavors and kind of helped the beer.
Interesting.
It made it better, and we did many blind taste tests with my staff doing sensory analysis, and what we found is that the apricot puree didn't make it shelf stable. It would pull the haze out of suspension, and people don't like to drink a snow globe. Yeah, it was kind of a pain. So we purposely made it non-hazy but juicy. And this, as you see, because you're looking at it and saying, well, this looks hazy, and that's because it is. We make, right now, we make the Taproom Series IPA and the Pitcher Day IPA, and those are rotating IPA series that we do once a month, and we learn some best practices from And I could go through a litany of things: water chemistry, yeast selection, how we whirlpool, what we whirlpool, when we whirlpool, dry hopping techniques, dumping trube techniques, how you dry hop. There's probably 100 things we've done, and so we were implementing that. If it was something we could implement across the brewery, we would.
Yeah.
And so the Daily Double got to the point where now we're getting, we tweaked it a little bit with some of the recipe, more on the hops than anything, and some in the grain bill, and the water chemistry. But we just started doing one change every time we made it, and it got to where we felt that the apricot was a detractor.
Mm-hmm.
And so we pulled it, and it wasn't actually on purpose. It was an accident. We forgot to put it in.
Another happy accident.
It was a happy accident, and that was in July. And we had been thinking and talking internally, hey, we really need to get this apricot out. But being that it's mass distributed, we were concerned. Obviously, we don't want to make this huge change. But by the time I had realized that we didn't put the apricot in, the beer was cold crashed. It was ready for carboning, and I'm like, it's too late. You can't heat the beer back up to ferment out the apricot. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just go with it. And it had a lot more haze, and the flavors now we had proven that the apricot was actually a detractor.
Interesting.
So now, this batch in particular, we always make some little tweak. We always want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I went more towards the grain bill that I use on my taproom series.
Okay.
Which has more proteins that are coming from the grain bill, using some more oats. So there's some flaked oats in there, and there's some malted oats, and so I bumped up some of those on this batch. Other than that, that was the only thing it had in this. But as you taste it, there's zero astringency on it. You get juice. You wait a little bit, and now you're getting a little bit of a hot bite, kind of like
You are, yeah.
like what you get from like maybe orange juice, where it's just like a little bit of a bite, and that's what we want.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So it has, it's not just 100% juice, which that's what we're going to taste next is my taproom series, where it's like, holy shit, juice whacking you over the head. But this is the reason why I wanted you to try this Daily Double, and if anyone's listening that's had the Daily Double in the past, is and for any craft brewery for that matter, if they have a standard offering, over time, I hope that every craft brewery gets better and better and makes their beer better and better, and that certainly is the case in my
You would
Daily
at least
Double.
hope that's their goal.
Yeah. So I would never ever say, oh, I've had it before, and that means that's how it is today, because
it's kind of one of the things I like about trying new beers all the time. I mean, technically, you can never really get the same one twice.
Yeah.
Based on the batch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always a little fun event, something to think about.
Yep.
Why don't you tell me about the actual name, Artisanal Brew Works, and where that came from? Because I don't really know anything about it.
We started out, we had different names. Colin, I probably had 4 or 5 names that Colin and I agreed on. One was Geyser Road Brewing, or Geyser Brewing. I think it was Geyser Brewing, Geyser, because we're on Geyser Road.
It was funny. As I was on my way here, I used my iPhone, of course, to give me directions.
Yep.
And my girlfriend set the accent to a British accent. Honestly, I have no idea how to change it back. But it said, turn left onto Geyser Road. I'm like, well, I know that's not right, but I know what it's talking about.
Yeah. So I'd say, Colin, I'll check to make sure that no one else is using this name. No one was using the name. I would go and I'd get the websites, and you get the .com and you get .net and a couple others to kind of protect yourself. And so I spend like $50, $100, whatever it was, on GoDaddy. And then the next day, Colin would be like, yeah, I don't want to change that name. I don't like that name. And I'm like, well, son of a bitch, I just spent $100. So then we go to another name. Yeah. So we went through like 3 times where we had this name, and then he chickened out the next day. And in each time, I'm like, are you sure you're not going to change your mind? Yeah. But then he did. So I made a sheet in Excel.
Would he have changed it so easily if he was the one paying for the web domains?
Yeah, I don't think so, yeah. So I just made 40 different names, like a whole bunch of them, and then I kind of organized them by some themes. And he had always talked about wanting to make artisanal beers, so I put that in there. And I just had different combinations with artisanal, and I looked at what was taken already to make sure I'm not going to step on anyone else's toes. And he chose Artisanal Brew Works out of this, and
nice.
And then I was like, okay, I'm not getting this domain until tomorrow. And you call
so
me and tell me you're still good with it. So then he was still good with it, and the rest is history. Yeah.
So what were the early days like in trying to get this place up and running?
It was just busy. We had converted over what was a bike factory.
I did hear this.
Area.
So this did used to be a bike place, right?
Yeah. So where we are sitting and
bicycle,
overlook,
not motorcycle, right?
Yeah, bicycle. Saratoga Bike Factory. So they made very expensive bikes. They were used. They're sought after. They're really excellent bikes. They were like the Tour de France style bike. The market crash in 2009, I think ultimately really pushed them where people wouldn't want to spend $15,000 for a bike.
That's a pricey bike.
Yeah. These were not your everyday bike.
No, I had a hard time parting with. I think mine was like somewhere between $500 and $600 for a solid, good reputation bike.
That might be what you pay for some of the gear on the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they had closed and the property was vacant for a while. And there's the building owner had a distillery at the time, and I popped in and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this brewery. And so I put my engineering skills to practice, and I basically spent the month of August. School wasn't in session, so I had a month to just do a business analysis, looking at where I could put equipment, how much equipment I could fit in here, how I could fit in a tap room, and I talked to the city officials and made sure I could do what I wanted to do, which was have a tap room and have music and have food.
Yep.
And some of that's changed after the city allowed me to do stuff for 2 years. But that's a whole other story that I'm not going to bring up. I didn't bring it up. I think I brought it up. But anyways, I'm not bitter.
Not at all.
But yeah, so we laid out the equipment, on AutoCAD, and everything looked like it was going to be a go. Like on paper, it looked like we could make this fly. And that's when I got Colin involved. I said, hey, you've always wanted, you always talked about starting a brewery. I have an opportunity here, and if you want to do it, we'll do it. And so we, I had a lot of project engineering experience, putting in multi-million-dollar piece of equipment. So this was baby equipment to me. I mean, this is dinky stuff relative to what I did. So I, just because of my experience, I knew how to get shit done quick.
Nice.
So we went from, I think we really started doing the actual construction around December of 2015, and by July 2016 we were open. And that's
quick.
Cranking. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It was, it's nothing more than just knowing where to go to buy stuff, what I needed to buy, how to, it's just because I did it as a living. It was really, it's not easy, but it was like, I'm not learning how to procure equipment. I knew how to do that.
Yeah.
I knew how to do it fast, and I knew what to look for. So that, and I didn't have to say like, oh, what's the best type of piping? I know that's going to fail. That's not good. This is what I need to use. So I could go through stuff fast.
Awesome.
So that was pretty helpful with having that engineering background and doing the design. And Colin and I built a lot of it ourselves. We're sitting on what's the cold room. This was not here. It was just, it's a very tall building, so we took advantage of the height.
It is. I was surprised when I pulled in the parking lot.
Yeah. And I don't know what the original building plans were, but if I were to guess that probably the vision was that they could have a second story. As an expansion, because then you're not changing your square footage. Sarada unfortunately is not here, but we are.
Well, you guys have definitely gotten and you've definitely gotten some high praise and have built a stellar reputation in a real short amount of time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the logo and branding because you guys are doing a great job with that too. But why don't we talk about this second beer that's here to taste?
Okay, so the second beer, this is It's called our Taproom Series IPA. It's a rotating series. This is back when I was really changing the focus of the brewery from making these New York State beers, which were fine, but don't excite people. And we're looking at what everyone else is doing, and the trend is obviously you've got to have some fire IPAs. So we do the double IPAs seem to be the ones that draw in more people than a single IPA or a triple IPA, but they all have their strengths and their merits.
Yep.
So the Taproom Series is supposed to be a hazy, juicy IPA, but not always. Sometimes it's not as hazy as others because we're trying stuff. We're trying to push the limits of, what can we do to make this, we're getting haze as a result of process, what we're using for grains and what we're using for hops and how we're doing it. So there's times where it may not be as hazy, but we have noted that and we learned from that. But it could be that we got more flavors out of it. So having someone just look at the color and say, "Oh, it's not hazy," they're missing the point. So this beer in particular is supposed to be juicy, and I saw just a funny comment on Untappd where someone said, "Oh, it's good beer, but they put too much juice in there." And I'm thinking, you dolt. It's a fucking hazy, juicy IPA. There's no
in the
juice.
description.
It's all in the hops, man. Like, I worked my ass off to get it to taste like that. Like, you have no idea how hard I worked to get the hops to do that. So this, first we'll start with the aroma. You do a little swirl with it. And this is a Tiku glass, so these are designed to enhance the aromas.
Oh, yeah.
And now you can compare. Like, the Daily Double has got a great aroma on it, but it's like a lighter, more like this. The Daily Double smells more like orange juice to me.
It does feel lighter.
Yeah. And then you go over the tap room, and then it prepares you for it. You are going to get whacked over the head with flavor. And so now let's taste.
Oh, yeah.
It's just juice.
It is.
It's just crazy. And this is we'll usually what we're doing is switching up. The biggest thing we always change is the hops, and try different hop combinations and see if we can come up with something that will enhance some flavors. And this, to me, I was going for more of a melon flavor.
Okay.
I was seeing could I get melon out of there, and at first you get kind of a. I still can't wrap my head around what that flavor is. Maybe like papaya up front.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then it gets into like that. It's like almost the overripe melon flavor. As you let it sit and you wait, you'll get this like it's like you have like a cantaloupe melon. It's almost on the edge of being too ripe.
Yep.
And then that's that flavor you get towards the end. So
it's delicious. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it's got this massive. It just whacks you over the head with flavors up front. Really creamy. Nice mouthfeel.
It's top-notch work.
Yeah. And that it's 7.75. So we tried not to make it super high.
Pace yourself. In other words, yeah.
But some people, do a double IPA at 8-9%.
There's some strong ones out there.
Yeah. And I'm not knocking that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
I just, as a guy who tastes off the fermenter every day.
As I like to say, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. And the guy I taste off the fermenters every morning. I don't want to get schnockered.
It's a nice way to start your day.
Yeah, it is. Little taste, though. And I do it before I brush my teeth, and yeah, but that's my typical day. Is I drink beer. You're
not using this to brush your teeth, though.
No.
Okay.
No. No. I have my own toothpaste here and toothbrush. But yeah.
I even had a listener comment on Facebook from Kyle Wolf, who I believe is also on Instagram, does No Hype beer reviews.
Yeah. He
telling
came
me,
in here a few weeks ago. Yeah.
He mentioned that. Telling me to, of course, bring up the logo and everything. Let's talk about the logo, because the logo is really cool. It's really just a face with glasses and a beard kind of out to look like a hop.
Yes. So it started out as most brewers obviously have a lot of facial hair, and I'm the exception to that, but it's okay. So, so the idea was to have a beard as part of it, and I wore a bow tie as a teacher. Because I taught biotechnology is one of the things I taught.
Kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So, it's kind of like that Bill Nye Science Guy look. So we tried doing a logo with a beard and a bow tie, and it long story short, it looked stupid because the bow tie was going to be way down at the bottom.
The beard would be covering it.
Yeah, it just looked dumb.
Is the beard actually modeled after any person?
No.
Okay.
So initially it was just a regular beard. It was photoshopped, just a hairy beard, and so we had dropped the bow tie and didn't have the glasses initially. And so what I was showing people, I'd be like, "Hey, look at this. What does this look like?" Just flash it in front of them, and they'd be looking at it like it's an ink blot. Yeah, and I'm like, "Yeah," because I was telling Colin, my business partner. I'm like, people are not going to get what the hell this is. We got to give it context. So we put glasses on it. And I have the glasses. Actually, these are glasses that's similar to what we model it after. Kind of the hipster look. These aren't totally hipster what I'm wearing, but...
to be fair, does Colin have a beard?
He does.
There we go.
He does.
A combination of the owners. There we go.
Yep. And then one of my co-workers at the time, Steve Bessler, he still works at the high school. He said, "Hey, man, you should take that beard and just do it as hops." And I'm like, that's a fucking great idea. I'm like, that's a no-brainer. Absolutely.
Nice.
So I made a call over to my designer, and he did it. And then now it's, the rest is history.
What's cool about the logo is whenever I'm walking down an aisle at the supermarket or around the beer store, I definitely know the artisanal beers.
Yep.
Because that logo stands out.
Yeah. And that, tie into the artwork. So, I've got a can here. This is the White in the Glasses Wit. So that and the Daily Double.
That looks familiar from last night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
So what we did on there is, you notice it's got a lot of white space.
Yes.
And the beard is predominant. And the idea was to give the consumer something that stands out. Because a lot of... I've got my other beers.
We've got cans lined up too, folks.
So I've got the Toast My Goats.
The Toast My Goats one is awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about these labels.
This is the latest. I'm doing a release. It hasn't come out yet.
I was going to say, I haven't seen this one.
Know about this.
Awesome.
We're partnered with the Final Furlong.
It's nice to have privileges like I do.
Yeah. So they're a racing stable, and we're partnering with them, and they're
of course, because Saratoga Racetrack.
Yeah, so they're going over to buy some horses, and they're gonna give the people that partner with them some of this beer. So we've got the standard beers, which are the White in the Glasses and the Daily Double, which are ones we distribute widely. Those are designed to have pop on the store shelf, and I've been commenting like I got the sour here. And they're like, well, your logo's not on there. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. This is only sold in the brewery. It's taking someone's artwork. So we partnered with this lady. This lady makes great
let's go ahead and talk
artwork.
About that, because I was really because you guys kind of have what I love it, because it's like a different theme really for each series of beers that you have.
We do.
And you can tell a lot of thought definitely went into it.
Yeah, so
let's start with the sours then, because it's basically it was from a local artist, right?
Yeah, so if it's something that's not going to be mass distroed, it's only going to be sold here out of the tap room, so I can control the messaging. And the idea there is that can really needs to look good on Instagram or Facebook posts or Snapchat, whatever these people do.
It's crazy how important that really is for a business now to maintain that social media presence.
Yeah. So for the sour, we had some different ideas going around. We had done a sour IPA series, which kind of had like this green background, and it looked all right. But one of the brewers here is friends with a lady who does really nice art, and we had her come in and we looked at our artwork, and we basically grabbed, we paid her for it, but we've got one of her backgrounds, and then for different sours, we changed the hues. So for a blackberry lemon bar sour, which we just released last week, it has more berry tones. The one in front of us here is the tangerine and lime.
I gotta try that.
Well, we're gonna try it. Yeah, it's here. We're not letting this go to waste. So that has.
You're my new favorite person.
We changed the hues to more of a light green, so kind of to tie it in with what you'd expect.
I didn't even think about that while I was reading the names. Now looking back, they do. It was meant to blend with the names.
We did do some thoughts as far as changing hues.
How much fun do you guys have when it comes to trying to come up with the new label designs? Is it tough? Well, how tough is it?
It's a process that we go through. Well, here you. You can say hello.
Oh, I can?
Yes, come on in.
Come on in.
I'm allowed to talk?
Yes. Hi, Colin. Nice to meet you. I'm Chris.
Hey, nice to meet you too, Chris.
Love the beard.
Thanks. The beer or the beard?
Both.
Both.
Oh,
yeah. We
okay.
talked about the logo and how, the whole went through the whole story.
Yes.
Oh, no.
The beard and the bow tie to beard to ink blot to hops and
Yes.
glasses and there it is.
To me, considering LASIK.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, good to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
So the design process it's fun, but it's also nerve-wracking because you have a lot of players that, TTB being the primary one where, you could have these great ideas, but they're going to shoot you down. So you've got to have an idea, but not be totally hung up on it that, you're going to have to be pliable and change your ideas.
Yeah.
Probably our coup de grace, if you want to call it that, would be the Toast Magoats.
Let's talk about the Toast Magoats because this looks just like the Quaker Oats label, which is great.
So we got invited
and I assume this particular picture, is that Colin?
Yeah.
Wearing the hat and the wig and everything?
On that side is me.
Okay, there it is. Nice.
Yeah, so it has both of us on the label. So we got invited to Extreme Beer Fest, and we as a brewery, which is what we do for a lot of our beers, we talk about ideas of what we want to make, and we had talked about something that would be based off. The theme was like a breakfast type theme, and we want to do something heavy oat based, which is where the whole idea of using, I eat oatmeal pretty much every day, and I'm making my oatmeal, and I'm looking at this Quaker Oats container. I'm like, God, that would make a great beer label. Like, it'd be awesome. So then we had printed off that, and we took like the different things that are on the Quaker Oats label, and we thought, what could we put in that would be like, our own spin on it. So at the bottom it said, or at the top it said heart healthy, and we put oat beer might make you healthier.
There we go. I'll buy that.
And TTB didn't like that. So we ended up putting the beer names up there.
Okay.
At the bottom of the oats container, it says it's like 100% whole grain. And we put whole grain malts and 100% natural.
Yeah.
So we had, and there was some changes. There's stuff that we wanted to put on which were much more funny, but the TTB didn't think so. They don't like humor.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the others, why don't we crack open that sour? Because I'm really interested in trying that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got some clean glassware.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sour, the artwork obviously is the most of it is based off of that. As I'm turning it, you'll see it's almost all that painting.
And it looks like an oil painting.
We have a little
abstract
spot,
oil painting.
And I've had someone say, well, geez, no one can see your logo, and well, I control the messaging here at the brewery, and I wanted to feature the artist. I was like, there's enough cans that have my logo on it.
And actually, did we mention the artist's names? We probably should. Is it Jean Ellen Sotansky, right?
I can't say that last name, but
I believe it looks like Sotansky.
Yeah, she's super nice.
Local artist here in Saratoga.
Yeah.
And the can labels look awesome, so kudos to her. I haven't had a chance to see any of her actual. Cheers.
And we did have an art show in association with that first release.
It's got a nice little aroma to it.
Yeah, and it's key lime, so key lime is super powerful.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice change.
Yeah. Real easy drinker. And the sours that we make are approachable. They're not super tart.
Is it hard to walk that line between not sour enough and too sour?
Yeah. With the Blackberry Lemon Bar, we had made that twice before, and it was our most popular sour by far.
Really?
Yeah. That one's really sold well. So we just made that. We just released that last week, Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
And I would, someone told me, "Oh, you guys don't make your sours tart enough," and I was like, All right.
just like the
I didn't
tap room was too juicy.
I didn't tell anybody, but I'm like, all right, I can make them more sour, and I did. So it's got more tartness to it. The thing I didn't expect is it quenched a little bit of the lemon flavor that came through when it was a little more tame.
Okay.
But I personally like it better myself, being a little more on the tart side. And again, it comes down to craft breweries, man. Craft breweries are not about every batch shouldn't be exactly the same. It's like, hey, can we do this but do it better? Can we try something different?
It's a lot of it's
how are you going to get better?
It's
if
a
you
lot
don't
of
change?
experimenting and trial and error.
Yeah. Yep.
And it leads to some great things, from my experience.
It sure does.
I definitely want to talk about these your Picture Days IPAs labels, because those are kind of hilarious.
Yeah, they are.
Because it looks like they include basically early high school yearbook photos
of
employees. Right?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So that was, we had been doing the at this point we had the sour series out. We had the taproom series out and rolling. The other thought was, well, you kind of look at your portfolio and you think about where were we weak, and I felt that we needed to have a single IPA for the people that want to have more than one or two, and still feel safe to drive. So that was really the intent of that. And
incredibly important.
Yes, and we had shot around a bunch of ideas, and the winning idea, which was great, is a picture day. Have a picture day, and then on the can label, the can label would be a background of some cheesy high school photo. So we had lasers was our first one, and it was great. So the first one was we just did the backdrops, and then it evolved. We're like, hey, well, why don't we put someone on there? Because some people weren't really putting together this whole idea of Picture Day IPA and what that meant. So I'm like, well, we're going to make this simple for people. I'm going to put someone on the label and use their original high school picture, and now it becomes clear.
Because that's no one's most insecure time of their life.
Yeah.
Why not put it on a beer label?
Yeah. And so then it becomes kind of fun to name them. We had one which is named after one of our sales guys, Jeff Berger. So that was Picture Day Burger.
I'm still trying to get someone to name a beer Slap and Tickle.
Yeah.
No one's taken me up on that yet. Slaps you in the face with the taste, and then tickles your throat on the way down. That's how I describe it. Slap and tickle. The old slap and tickle. That's for you.
Well, we'll get you on Picture Day one of these days.
I'm down.
When we're looking for a picture, you get your high school picture.
Little sadly redheaded Chris would be happy to be on a beer label.
We'll make it work, and then that would be the nickname, Slap and Tickle. And
I like
there you
it.
go. It's
with
done.
My picture. I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it, man.
Awesome.
And that's how we do it. We'll say, okay, I have to make the labels up well in advance of actually making the beer. And so I'll get, 2 or 3 of my employees' pictures, and then I'll give them options from my designer, like what background, I ask what background they would like, and then we see what artwork we can buy, and then they pick it. So really that whole label has really been decided by that employee that's featured on that can.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a great way to keep everyone involved, and that's fantastic.
Oh yeah. And I've been around long enough in industry to know that if you're really going to be successful, you got to have employee involvement.
Oh yeah.
People have to feel like they're part of the process and that they have ownership. If someone doesn't have ownership, they're just an employee. They come in, clock in, do their thing, and go. And that's not what I want.
And that's an awesome attitude to have.
Yeah.
Before I forget, the Taproom series labels that I've seen, I love because they kind of look like Hawaiian shirts.
Yes. So that ties into my days as a teacher. Any of my former students kind of test that. What I would have was on Tuesdays, I'd wear tropical shirts all year. And
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Tropical Tuesday.
Tropical Tuesday. And then on Friday would be Flannel Fridays. And so I really love tropical shirts. I mean, they're awesome because they're just so corny and ugly. And
have you seen the show on Netflix, Stranger Things?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't.
Of course,
seen it yet.
In season 3, one of the main characters is wearing. It's 80s. It's in the 80s. Of course, one of the main characters in season 3 is basically wearing a flamingo Hawaiian shirt the whole time during the season because it all takes place in a short amount of time. And I made I drank a bottle of wine one night and I was watching. I'm like, you know what? I'm buying some Hawaiian shirts. Fuck it. I ended up buying 2 Hawaiian shirts while I was drunk and offline watching Stranger Things. And then for my birthday, my girlfriend got me a third. I don't know if it was a joke or not, but she did notice that I didn't wear it immediately.
Yeah. Mistake.
But I did wear it, and I love it, and it's my favorite if you're listening.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Love that shirt.
It's
seen
fantastic.
It on you before. It's
exactly.
Awesome.
Kurt's seen it. He can vouch for me.
You look smashing in
Absolutely. Yeah. So why don't we move on to another beer as I finished my sour
Sure.
taste here.
Well, have you tried any of the Toast Goats?
I know I had one at one of the Brew Fest. I think I had it at the Brew Fest last. Well, of course, there's a few different Toast My Goats, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's another rotating series. So.
Yeah.
And these are our crazy beers. They're, we kind of have the sour series. We've got a single IP series, Picture Day.
Yeah, but let's crack open the Toast My Goats.
So the Toast My Goats, we made this for Extreme Beer Fest.
What made you think of the name Totes My Goats?
It was from the brewery staff. It was the oats part. We were like, we'll tie in with oats. So then, and that one I think came from John Ross, one of my brewers.
Okay.
And he was like, Toast My Goats. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
We have a winner.
Yeah, so that's how it came about. So the first, and probably my least favorite Toast My Goats was the one we did for Extreme Beer Fest, because it was it was supposed to be, you're pushing the extreme. You're trying, so the grist was pushing the limits of what I could do on my system with so many oats. And then we used a puree we never heard of called Lulo. So it was Lulo and mango, and I can't remember what else, but it was Lulo and mango in there. It was goddamn tart. And not like in a sour kind of good way. It was kind of like an astringent tart. And it aged out and it was okay, but we had considered just scrapping, and I'm like, boys, we've got a great label, and the theme is there. Let's just we want to do a smoothie beer, and I'm like, let's just define the Toast My Goats as it's our experimental series where we do crazy shit.
Just do whatever feels right.
Yeah, so we did a creamsicle, we did a fudgesicle, we did a berry, and that multiple B's because it has blackberry, blueberry, boysenberry, and raspberry.
It's a lot of berries.
A smoothie, yeah, and it tasted like a smoothie. I mean, and everything tastes like it's supposed to.
Interesting.
So this is an acai bowl that we're having. Acai is superfruit. So this is beer.
That's got a nice look to it.
It's beer that's gonna make you healthy.
It's raspberry colored.
Yeah. So a lot of antioxidants along with the alcohol.
It's nothing like a good healthy beer.
Exactly. Yeah. So this has a lot of acai. It has raspberry, blueberry, and some banana puree, which was kind of hard to find, but I did get some.
Ooh, I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect, but that's.
And I had never had acai in my life, so I didn't even know. I didn't know what to expect. And I've tried an acai bowl, but they there it's like more like a slushy where it's got a lot of it's icy.
I think that kind of reminds me of almost like a seltzer. Honestly.
So I'm gonna tell you something and then you're probably gonna say, "Oh my god!" So I was on vacation while the boys were putting in the purees, and I asked them what it tastes like. And I'm like, "Well, it's interesting." And so the minute I got back, I cruised over to the brewery and I tasted it, and I'm like, "Shit, I've had this flavor," and I know I've had this flavor when I was a kid. And then I got thinking, what was that flavor? And
it tastes familiar.
And I'm going to tell you where you've had it. You know you had the blow pops, and then you had the ones that had the chocolate in there. I forget what they call that. It would be the suckers that had the Tootsie Roll on the inside.
Oh yeah.
So right as you're about to get to that Tootsie part of it,
son of a bitch,
that's the flavor. It nails it.
Wow,
it's crazy. Yeah.
That's insane.
You don't see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that. And I'm like, holy cow, that is so cool. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and these are beers that, I'm just trying stuff to learn. It's what can I do? And my brother who was up visiting,
if you don't brew it, you'll never know.
Yeah, My brother was up and he's like, "This doesn't taste like beer," and I'm like, "Well, that's kind of the point. It's not supposed to taste like beer." And when I have people come in, customers, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't like beer," and I'm like, "Here, try this." Like, what is it? And I'm like, "Oh, don't worry, just try it." And they're like, "Wow, that's awesome." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what that is? That's a beer." Like, with craft beer now, it's people have this definition of what beer is, and it's typically based off of the big breweries.
I mean, if there was really a
lagers.
definition for it a decade ago, that's kind of just been thrown out the window.
100%. Yeah.
It's like there's no specific definition just for beer anymore, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. It's great.
I believe that is great. Yeah. And now it's about breaking down those barriers and getting people to realize, hey, you don't like beer, but you don't like the beer that is just yellow water.
Yeah.
We make a lot of different flavors. I've got 16 beers on draft, and every one tastes totally different. Yeah.
Well, the ones we've had have certainly been very different.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this, but what's been the most popular beer you've put together so far?
The Taproom series.
The Taproom series,
yeah. Yeah. And that's grown, in popularity where, the cans are selling out probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Wow.
Which for us is good. And it keeps getting faster and faster every time.
Yep.
It used to be about a month. Last year we've been doing the Taproom series for about a little over a year, and they would last for about a month, and they were just as good. It's just people. I was trying to beat back that thought of, these are the guys that make old guy beer, and it's like, no, I don't do that anymore. Like, just trust me. So as the word's gotten around, now we're getting to where people will come, they'll ask me well in advance, like, hey, when are you releasing the next Taproom? And I might tell them, well, the brewery landed on my shoulder and said it might be Thursday this week. So so that Taproom series is definitely the fastest moving. And the sours are interesting. They're definitely picking up.
Okay.
In terms of can sales out of the Taproom. Sours, though, commercially, I could sell them so fast.
Really?
Yeah,
seems like more of a niche.
It is, and I think that there's not as many people doing it. They're a little more difficult to make. It ties up your whole brew house because we do kettle sours. We don't do wild sours. We just don't have the space to have a separate facility.
I was at Frog Alley in Schenectady a while ago, and they were kind of wrapping up their series of sours they were putting out, and they were all great. They cranked out like 5 or 6 right in a row, which is a lot of sours.
Yeah. So with kettle sours, you're tying up your brew house for at least a day. We do. It depends on what I'm trying to do, what flavors I'm after. I might tie it up longer.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm not trying to give away all my secrets.
No.
But that's part of it. Is what you do.
Got to keep stuff to yourself.
Yeah.
Do you have a personal favorite when it comes to beers you've brewed?
Whatever's the newest. Yeah, and that's the truth. Like I'm like anybody else. Like, I like the variety, and whatever's the latest.
Well, you can't drink the same thing.
Yeah.
Week after week, or day after day, week after week.
Yeah.
It can get old quick.
But if you had to ask me my favorite beer overall, I would tell you the Daily Double.
Okay.
And the reason is that when I drink that beer, I can taste the refinement. That because we've made that a ton of times, and we've refined it. Every time we make it, we're doing something to make it better, and I can taste that. And I can taste that it's just there's nuances in a lot of areas that. In a Taproom series, I'm whacking you over the head with flavors, and the aromas are great. I mean, everything's great about it, but if I were to make that beer again, I would do something different because I want to make it better. With the Daily Double and the Wit, those I can make again and make them better, make them better, make them better. And the Daily Doubles really just come such a long ways that I find it really pleasure to drink. I mean, I like all my beers, but if you had to ask me what's my favorite.
All right.
Hands down, I'd tell you the Daily Double.
That's cool. Why don't we crack open this last one to sample while I wrap up with some listener questions and one or two others that I have. Your final Furlong Racing Stable?
Yeah.
Right?
So this is the one that it's a German and it's a German style Kolsch, and I should say inspired. You know, a true Kolsch is made in Germany, and I've been to Cologne, Germany, as they say, and I've had the true Kolsch, and I had it with these little crackers where they put raw pork with sliced up onion, and it's like pork that doesn't get you sick.
Oh, all right.
Comes from Special Farms. That's what the guy told me. And yeah, I've been looking right at the Dome, which is this huge church right in downtown Cologne, Germany, and it's just brilliant church. It's humongous.
All right.
So, you know, I really like the style. The first thing you're going to notice on this is that it's got some haze to it, which it shouldn't. So what's unique about a Kolsch is it's an ale yeast, but then you ferment it. You start out fermenting it like an ale, but then you finish it like a lager, and you let it sit for a long time and lager in at 48 degrees Fahrenheit, that was all part of the plan. I fermented. I had everything set. I did my transitioning down to 48. I transferred into a bright tank, and these guys, the Final Furlong, originally they said they needed it packaged. They're buying some cans for me, and they're giving it to their clients. So they said it was going to be the week of the Travers. I'm like, perfect. So, you know, I just went backwards from there to figure out when I needed to brew it and give it the time to have it settle out and get the clarity.
How long did that take?
Well, they told me like about a week and a half ago, hey, we're gonna do it this Sunday. You know, it's like
no pressure.
I'm like, shit. So I gotta carb it, and you know, I put some findings in, which is the only beer I put findings in, and it had cleared it, but you know, it just when we carb it, we really just didn't give it the time because I couldn't, because I had to package it for these guys. So it's got some haze, but it tastes great. Like I just love it. And then, yeah, a true German purist would say I don't respect the style, and I wouldn't be able to argue with them, because German would never ever release a hazy Kolsch. They would not do that. But I make hazy beers. Is that a rule of
thumb? I'm not German. I don't know.
It's supposed to be pretty clear.
Okay.
And I don't filter.
I'm Irish. I just drink.
Yeah, and I'm German, and I drink, and I because I make hazy IPAs, I'm cool with haze. Yeah, and I really am a guy that bases things off of flavors, like what my hop choices, the amounts I do, what I do with my water chemistry, everything's like off of flavors. You know, at the end of the day, I'll look at the financials, but I'm gonna make the decisions first based off of what it's supposed to taste like, what it's supposed to smell like. You know, because that's what the customer really, you know, for a craft brewery, in my opinion, it's gotta be really outstanding.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the financials figure that out later. I know I'm, you know, true business guy would do it the other way around, but that's just how I operate. So this guy here, this is all New York State.
Okay.
So this is New York State grain. The grain we got from down in Albany. I'm trying to think of the name of the guys. They're great guys, but can't think of the name right now. And the hops came from a place out near Buffalo.
All right.
So, just
let's give it a try.
So I describe it as having like a little, it's warmed up a little bit because it's sitting out here, but like a little bit of a lemony, a little bit of a kind of a grassy.
It's definitely lighter than what we've been drinking.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, way lighter. Yeah, we've gone a complete opposite end of the spectrum. But that's
all right.
That's the deal with Kolsch, is it's not supposed to have a lot of flavor. You're supposed to be able to taste the malt.
And I can, and it's good.
Yeah, it's just supposed to have a nice, pleasant malt characteristic, a little bit of a hop characteristic, but not much.
I like it.
And that's your everyday drinking, you know, just I want to have a cold one and go cut the grass.
I can see that. It's a good one to just knock back while you do stuff.
Yep.
All right. I got just a couple more questions and then some listener stuff we get into.
Sounds good.
I'm running a little long, but no problem with that. So when it comes down to what you've been able to build this place into, do you ever look at it and think of what you're the most proud of?
Yes, I do. And that's the easy one to answer. I'm proud that I've created 9 jobs. That's awesome. How many employees I have.
That's fantastic.
You know, I've got two. I'm a brewer, but I also have responsibilities that go outside of just the brewing process. So I have two full-time brewers. That's all they do. Anything related to the brewing process, whether it be lab work. But they're focused on the brewery.
Awesome.
And then I've got a full-time sales guy, and then another guy who does probably about 30 hours a week. And then everybody else is front of the house. And I've got a fantastic taproom manager, and every one of my bartenders, I'm very proud to say that they work for Artisanal Brew Works. And there were times where I had some bartending staff early on that, they were great people, but may not have been the best fit. Their personalities weren't the best fit for being a bartender.
Yeah.
Because they could miss that personal touch at times.
I mean, it's a special kind of job.
Yeah.
You don't think about it much when you're just sitting there drinking a beer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Like, so the engineer in me, I'm inherently not, I can talk, but inherently, like, I'm more thinking and I'm not chatty.
Yep.
Where you want a bartender that can be chatty. And, like, when I first at the bar, I get, like, a little stressed. I'm like, shit. I gotta talk all fucking night, and by the end of the night, I'm like, I'm exhausted. I want to stop talking. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to go home, and I just want to. I want to say anything.
I always say my perfect job's one with no eye contact.
Yeah.
Is there something you really want to try, but you just haven't been able to do yet?
Yeah.
Or what's in the cards for Artisanal?
We want to work with I can't say the dang name, but it's the Quebec yeast. It's a yeast that ferments exceptionally high and fast. You ferment it in the 90s.
Really?
Yeah, and some people are making some great IPAs with that, and that's of interest. And at least where I think we're going to do this first time, we're going to collab with Rushing Duck.
Oh, okay.
We did a collab here, and our turn to go down there.
Nice. And where are they? I know of them.
They're down Orange County, I think.
Okay.
I honestly, I have their beer, and I think
south.
the beer is great. Yeah. They're down towards the city. So I've been, Dan and I have been in contact. So we've agreed on that concept because he hasn't tried it either.
All right.
And for me, I think a collab, it should be about. You're both walking away with something that you learned.
Yeah.
And it's a valuable experience. And for something like that, like if it sucks, or if it's like, it's okay, at least you're splitting it. It's like now you're taking a 10-barrel batch and now it's only 5 barrels. And, it should be easier to get rid of it as opposed to if you're stuck with 10 barrels of okay beer. But, of course, I hope we get a really nice beer.
Yeah.
I've just never worked with it, so I have no idea what to expect. But that is one that definitely is high on the priority list.
Awesome.
The other one that I'm playing with is Chinook. It's got a lot of terpenoids that are locked up and generally aren't accessible to lending to the fruity flavors.
Okay.
And I'm being that I just like a challenge. I want to figure out how I can unlock that. Part of it's driven on the fact that I have a lot of Chinook in stock.
Okay. Well, I
but
guess that
part
helps.
of it is just that I like the fact that it's like that's hard to do. And I'm like, well, if something's hard to do, then I'm gonna figure it out. So, and that I actually have stuff going on right now that I can't speak about in detail.
Of course.
But we've started trials, which things look really promising.
Nice.
I haven't worked with a Chinook yet, but I've been just trying my concepts with some other, pulling off some beers from our fermenters, and yes, I'm kind of excited on some of the things that we're trying. We're
awesome.
We're moving things in a just another direction, not another direction, but that continuous improvement direction.
Awesome, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are interested in trying those things that you're talking
about. Yeah, I might throw them on. Yeah, one was one I used in a sour to enhance the berry flavors.
All right.
And that was interesting, and it worked. But it's different. So it took the blackberry lemon bar sour, and it made it more like if you took your brain out of I'm drinking a sour mode and you said I'm drinking a wine, you would think you were drinking like a carbonated wine.
Really?
So it was pretty interesting. And now, for me, it's like, all right, well, this is cool. This is interesting data. So I know that I can mess with the chemistry. And now it's like, okay, so what do I do with that? Because I still, in the end of the day, I don't want to make wine. I want to make beer.
Yeah.
But it's got my head spinning. We do a fruited wheat beer line. One of the ones that we've worked with in the past, which has been hard to crack, is a peach. The peach puree is very light in flavor. It's a delicate flavor, and I wonder if I can revisit that and maybe get more peach flavor out of it.
Interesting.
And I'm not about putting in fake shit. I don't do fake flavors.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On occasion, I'll use an extract only because it makes complete sense, and I use organic extract. So what some people don't realize, and this is the chemical engineering. So there's flavorings and there's extracts. Extracts there's some guy whose job, and he's an engineer, he's a chemical engineer, dorky guy, glasses probably. And what he does is he's like, how am I gonna get this flavor, and I'm gonna put it in an alcohol base so that it's the real flavor. It's what you want in your beer.
Yep.
And the one, I'll give you an example, the Blackberry Lemon Bar. If I mess up and put in too much lemon, it's going to taste like Lemon Pledge. And people don't want to drink Lemon Pledge.
No, they do not.
And if I don't do enough, people are going to be like, well, I taste blackberry, but I don't taste lemon. So that would be an instance where, in my brewing philosophy, I put in a shit ton of blackberry puree. And then I taste it. This is when I first made it. I taste it, and then I start with a small sample. I put more and more lemon extract in. It's pure lemon oil. That's what's giving you the flavor. I taste it, and I make sure that I go, holy shit! If I had done that, I would have had Lemon Pledge, and I would have sucked.
Oh man!
And I'd throw out 310 gallons, and you're talking many, many thousands of dollars of wasted product. So there's instances, and that's one of, and I don't do it a ton, So we're working with some things here on the chemistry side that can help us with some hops that have lots of potential, but as the most brewers can't get flavors out of. Part of this process, what I'm looking at doing is, sometimes, and I don't want to go into the details because I don't want to. I've got lots of hours of, I should say tons of hours and time and money invested in making mistakes, and I'm trying to get out of making those the really harsh hoppy beers. Have you ever had like a beer that's fresh from the can and it's like super bitey?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
like super astringent.
Yep.
And I think I know how not to do that. I know how to do that with my process.
Yep.
But I know why that happens. And again, I'm not going to tell why that happens because then I'd be giving away a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But I think I can do what most brewers do, but then not get that hop astringency. So those are some of the things that I think are challenging because, there's things that you want to do in a brewery for financial reasons, but then can have impacts downstream that cause off flavors or harshness.
Of course.
And, that's where there's the engineer in me. You're never going to take it out of me. I'm always looking to try and make things better, and always natural. I don't do fake shit.
That's good. That's awesome.
Never. We don't do fake shit. We're artisanal.
That's the tagline. It should be on the sign. We don't do fake shit.
Yeah. Well, actually, so here, by the way, in case I wanted to make sure this came up at some point. So a former employee of mine had said, it's kind of myth that I didn't have a mission statement. And I didn't think I really needed a mission statement. I thought it was pretty obvious, but I did think about it. And I'm like, all right, I have a mission statement. So, and I share it with my staff, and I'll share it with you. You're the first person outside of my staff to know it.
Oh, fantastic. Again, the special privileges that...
Yeah. So the mission statement is to make world-class beer using the resources we have and not be douchebags.
I like it. I like it a lot.
It's just simple. Yeah,
that's all you need.
Yeah.
Make a top-notch product.
Yeah.
And all of these beers that we've tasted have been awesome.
Yeah.
So we could probably do quite a bit longer, so maybe we'll have to schedule like a second
no
episode.
worries,
But let's
yeah.
wrap up with some listener questions.
Yeah,
'cause some of these
absolutely.
are kind of hilarious. And honestly, this first one seems like more of a taunt than a question.
I'll
But
take
I
it.
thought it would be fun to throw it in.
Yeah, sure.
Sam Pagano, brewer at CH. Yo, I can
Sammer.
see this. Yeah, I see
What
the
up, bro?
smile on your face. Brewer for CH Evans at the Albany Pump
Yeah,
Station,
he
of
likes
course.
to bust my balls, and I bust him back.
On Facebook goes, ask them how many hot dogs they think their sales rep can eat in 5 minutes. Assuming he's referring to Daniel
Dan
Kravitz,
Kravitz, yeah.
who's not really a sales
Yeah.
rep, right?
Oh,
Or is
he
a sales rep?
is. He's
Okay.
he manages all my sales, and he's outstanding.
He responded
he's-
on Facebook saying he's not a sales rep and laughed.
Yeah. So Dan is got extensive background in the craft brewing industry, both from working for other craft brewery to being a manager of probably one of the best beer bars that was in Schenectady, which is closed. And he has just a tremendous amount of knowledge, and he's been a great asset to the whole brewery. But if you had to ask me, I don't know. I mean, Dan's, he's not a small guy. So I think he could probably put down a few.
I think I'd probably top out at like 3 or 4 hot dogs max,
but
honestly.
The thing with Dan is, like, he's got a really developed palate, and I think Dan would say, I'm not going to eat that many hot dogs because they're disgusting. And I think that's what
And
he
this
would
question
do.
came up because there was a hot dog eating contest amongst local brewers and brewery people, which I believe Sam won.
Yes,
so.
he did. Yeah. We didn't get invited, so we didn't go, but... But my congrats to Sam. Well done. You did well. I know I wouldn't have wanted to eat the hot dogs.
It's too many hot dogs.
Yeah,
I don't know how many he ate.
you save the buns for last and dip them in water. I know that trick. I've seen that skinny guy that's got the world record.
Oh,
whatever.
it starts with a K. I have no idea. And then Chris Anderson on Facebook asks, and I'm not sure why is Adam, and I can't pronounce his last name, Elperich, so handsome? And I believe Adam is evidently the brewer at Mad Jack Brewing in Schenectady.
Yeah. So we hired Adam. We had a little change in staff, and I'd known Adam from, as I know a lot of the breweries in the area and their brewers, and
Mad Jack's good. I like Mad Jack.
Yeah.
At the Van Dyke in Schenectady.
And it was an opportunity where Adam wanted to make some of the crazier beers that we do, like an acai bowl or some of these crazy IPAs. So we chatted with him. We said, hey, we've got this opportunity when you're interested in coming up, and we talked, and it's really been a great fit for us. He's got a demeanor. Manufacturing doesn't always work out according to plan, and if something doesn't work out right, he's like, "Yep, all right. Well, what are we gonna do?" And we just figure out what's the plan going forward with what we are dealing with now.
Yeah.
And that's really nice.
Awesome.
It really makes it a pleasure to come to work and know that if something doesn't go according to plan, we're going to figure it out, and we're not going to get mad. We're not going to throw tantrums. We're just going to get it done.
Yeah.
So he's been really, every employee, I could tell you 5 minutes about every employee, and Adam included, and Dan included. They're awesome.
It's awesome to have a close-knit group of people really behind the whole operation.
Yeah. And I don't know how much I tell my staff this, but my intent, and it's based off of my experiences growing or living in Saratoga. Allardyce is a hardware store.
Yep.
And if you go into Allardyce in your area, chances are you keep on seeing the same employees that work there. The core staff. And I've made note of that. And so I've asked their employees, I'm like, why do you keep working for Allardyce? And the one thing they said, which really struck with me, is Wally, being the owner, Wally Allardyce, he listens to us.
And for anyone wondering, that's Colin down by the brewing equipment, just
if
throwing shit around
filling
and hitting
kegs,
stuff. Yeah.
So one of the things that I do, if I was younger, I probably wouldn't be able to keep good employees because I would have had my ego and my just being stupid, being too young. I've made mistakes and I've learned along the way.
This is something that kind of comes with age.
Yeah. And I'm almost 50, so I'm getting there. So I hope at this point I can start being a little more calm, cool, and collected. And I really, value a lot what my employees bring to the table. And, initially I had to invest in equipment and ingredients. And now as a business, I'm starting to invest in employees. And, a working wage is really nice.
It's a great way to run a business.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And I'm really modeling what, can I do the things that Wally Allardyce does for his employees to keep his same employees for years and years. When I hire somebody, I don't hire somebody thinking, hey, they can do this job. I'm thinking about, is this a person that's going to take me to the day that I retire from here? Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I want.
Awesome.
I don't want somebody to just fill the role, fill kegs or whatever. I'm really thinking long term.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And one last question here to wrap it up. Andrew Flynn on Facebook asks, do you have any plans to add permanent food element to the
we would love to.
brewery?
So that one right now is out of my control. For 2 years, we could have food trucks. The zoning of Saratoga does not allow us to prepare food here.
Okay.
And they had allowed us to have food trucks. And so we did that. And we had the permits.
Food trucks are always fun.
Food trucks are great. They're kind of a pain, to be honest with you, but at the same time, if you get the right operator, it's great.
Yeah.
So the city of Saratoga is, as most cities, has a political angle to it, and something changed where they decided that they had to change their interpretation of the zoning as it applied to food at my location. And we went through a bunch of legal stuff, and there's still some legal proceedings going on. So limited on what I can say. But what I can say is that they changed the rules after telling us this is what you can do for 2 full years.
Really?
And and as you can imagine, that's I just would say disheartening.
Yeah, that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah. It's really, really difficult to run a business when you've done all the processes and received the approvals from a city, and then they turn around and say, "Oh no, can't do that. Change the rules." And you're like, "Oh, that was a mistake."
Oh man,
that was not a mistake. You know how many to get a permit through the city of Saratoga, you got like 4 or 5 or 6 different subsections of the city government that have to sign off on it. I'm like, you're telling me that those 6 people made that mistake 2 years in a row with multiple different food vendors? Like, come on. I'm not an idiot. I know what's going on, and we're playing the game with the legal game, but and there's a lot of things that I could say that I can't about future plans.
Yep.
But we 100% want food to be part of our business.
Awesome.
And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And we can always, of course, do another episode once some more stuff comes to fruition, and you can talk to about it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always down for sampling more stuff, that's for sure. So I think that's a good place to wrap up. So, Kurt, thank you very much for hanging out with me.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I like drinking beers and talking beer. That's what I do.
Awesome. So that's going to do it for this episode of Stories from a Bar. A big thank you to you, Kurt Borchardt. Did I say that
right?
You
nailed it.
Awesome.
I'm impressed.
German.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you hanging out, having some beer, sharing some stories. It's been fun. Big thank you to everyone out there for checking out the show. You can find Stories from a Bar on Facebook. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at StoriesFAB. I'm always looking for new guests, breweries, bar people, for just friends to hang out and drink with. They have fun stories, so feel free to contact the show on any of those social media platforms. Also, be sure to check out Artisanal Brew Works on Facebook, Instagram, to keep up on everything they have going on. check out their website, artisanalbrewworks.com. Anything else you want to throw in there?
No, I love beer. How's that?
You can see all their beers that they have on tap, what's for sale, and things like that. And you'll be surprised with the large amount.
Yeah.
And, of course, you can find the show on iTunes, Podbeam, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube, all the places you would expect to find the show. Be sure to subscribe. More importantly, leave a great review. It's always appreciated, and spread the word. So thank you, and until next time, cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks.